And then people started at the gym started noticing, hey, you're getting pretty lean there, buddy. And that always feels good, right? When you feel, because you go to the gym, you don't feel like anybody everybody's got their buds in and they're doing their thing. And, just have people randomly walk up, wow, you look great. You really lean down.
Hi there and welcome back to the show. My name is Andy Naylor. I am founder and CEO here at Naylor Body Design and host of your Optimal Alpha podcast. Now, I have been getting the amazing opportunity to go back through some of our clients over the course of the last couple of days and have some really, really cool conversations where we've been able to get to speak to them, understand how they felt before they started, what their journey's been like, what they've achieved, so on and so forth. So over the next few episodes, next few weeks, we are going to show you some of those amazing interviews, give you an insight as to what it's been like for them inside the program. So without further ado, without me waffling on, here is the first of those. This is with an amazing client of ours, Tony Huffman, who's actually been in the program for, I think, just over 3 years now and has gone through an amazing process and achieved amazing results while being with us. So without further ado, please enjoy the interview that we've had with Tony, and I will see you on the next episode.
Dude, like it's been a while, man. Like how
it's been a long time. How have you been?
Dude, I've been great. All is good over here. I'm sort of wrapping up my final day here in Dubai, literally doing like these so I've got quite like a few of these back to back where I'm getting to speak to people I've not spoken to for ages, which is what a lovely day, lovely day to spend doing, the last day here until I go back home. So all has been good, busy, as I'm sure you can probably see from the outside. Yes. In terms of work, everything's busy and but dude, we're here to talk about you, man. I'm here to sort of catch up with you and reminisce over the good few years that you've been in the program.
It'll be 3 years next in January.
Man, that time has gone quick, dude.
Yeah.
And I guess what I want to do is I guess go back to. I mean, it's a while back, but try and think if you can, think back to, I guess, whatever was happening in maybe the months or the year leading up before, speaking to us, finding us. Can you remember where you were in terms of health, fitness, physique? Like, where were you? And I guess what were you struggling with before you sort of reached out and looked for help?
Honestly, it was my diet, and I knew my diet was my issue. I knew it for years. Yeah, and I would do, God. So I would, my weight would get a little low. I decide I wanted to bulk, quote unquote. So I just started eating peanut butter. Then I'd start looking too fat, because peanut butter just makes you fat. It doesn't make you gain any kind of muscle, really. And so I got to stop the peanut butter. And I was just kind of on the cycle for years. It was this.
So trying to put on muscle and then getting fat and okay.
I was gaining and losing the same 10 pounds.
Yeah.
And and frustrating. And I got to a point I was like, well, you got to figure this out. It's either now or never. Because I knew I could get the physique I wanted. I knew that. Yeah. It was just a matter of, kind of getting that missing piece kind of squared away. And then I saw you were on Instagram and you said, do you want to see your abs? Yeah, I'd like to. I'd like to know that they actually exist. I contacted you. We spoke. I signed up with you right away.
Yeah, I think straight away. I think we spoke pretty quickly, didn't we? Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a ton of people online, everybody promising this and that and the other. And I thought, I don't know what about you was different, but you just seemed very real and honest. And I was like, yeah, I like this guy.
Yeah. Well, thank you, first of all.
Kingdom, man.
Yeah, you've used it. I love this phrase. You use this phrase. I see that you say this a lot regularly. You gave us the keys to the kingdom, and that's so lovely to say. But ultimately, you've done all the hard work. Like I always praise the client first. Absolutely, yes. We might have the map, we might have the GPS, we might know But we ain't sitting there doing the work. We're not sitting there saying no to certain foods and going to bed early and getting the workouts in. We know what that feels like because we do that for ourselves, and because that's what we do. But when it comes to someone going off and achieving their goals, it's not like we're saying like here, let us give you this thing and the result happens immediately. It's not like we say here is a pair of gloves, your hands will be warm immediately. It's like, you know what I mean? We can't. There is no immediate promise of that thing. It's here's what you're going to need to do. We will show you how to do it and guide you, but you're going to have to go and do it. And so there's still that element of having to get the damn work done, which is then when someone achieves their results, we always say you're achieving the results you deserve. And that can work in both directions. If someone isn't achieving the results, we're like, generally we can see and go, yeah, because you're not following the plan here, and and understandably, you're going off track here, and so you're getting the result that you deserve, as harsh as that sounds. But then equally, when someone like yourself has gone off and I can picture now in my mind multiple before and after pictures that I can think of where you changed so much. I think we went. I think initially when we started, we obviously went off and got nice and lean, got pretty lean. I think you ended up with pretty much a set of abs, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And they were like, cool, okay, let's go back in the other direction, add some muscle, and then come back down again. And obviously that's a cycle we're kind of always going through as we want to build up and get rid. And that's always a kind of a natural cycle. But I can think back to some of those. And I think you had surgery. Did you not? You had hernia surgery in the middle of that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I had a hernia repair.
Yeah, because I remember saying to you at one point, I was like, I think we probably, I don't know what it feels like for you, but you probably want to go and get that looked at, because I'd had a hernia fix, an umbilical hernia fix. And I remember looking, I was like, dude, you go and at least get that looked at, because it's the last thing you want is any real problems there. And then I think you'd carried on you kept on sort of improving after that. So where were you? I mean, you were going around in circles in terms of your physique, losing and gaining the same 10 pounds over and over again and not really making progress. And I imagine that had become quite frustrating, I imagine, at that particular point. Okay. And so what do you remember from the early phases that were put in place that you felt made the biggest impact or the biggest difference? What sort of stands out as like, oh, this was really where things were won and lost?
Well, the diet, obviously, which we talked about. Cutting my workout. I used to work out 6 days a week. I was one of those guys. And I went down to 4. And that made a huge difference. Just having more energy and just feeling like I was recovering, that every time I went into the gym, I was having a good workout. Whereas, by the 5 or 6, by workout 5 or 6, it's a dragon.
and this is also quite, we'll work with people where getting in full workouts is quite challenging in terms of timing. Like this, like that's about the most they can do. That's fine. And then we definitely have people where they're like, oh, I work out every day. And I'm like, what, in a gym? Like, yeah, I train every day. I'm like, well, respectfully, then you're probably not training very hard. And they're like, and I'm like, whoa, hang on a second. I'm not meaning to offend you, but if you're able to train back to back daily, and depending on how they split their body up, like I know that I physically couldn't do that. And I'm not saying I'm the hardest trainer in the room. I'm certainly not. But physically, okay. So when are we recovering? When is the recovery time? And there's still that go hard or go home kind of mentality and attitude, which is maybe good in the moment to make get someone to sort of like really train hard, but then that doesn't mean 7 days a week, because then, well, as you've just articulated, you get to the end of the week and you're really not only are the sessions suffering, recovery's suffering, and the next thing after that is an injury, isn't it? Like an injury or a niggle, then an injury, and then it's like 2 or 3 weeks off, and then when it's 2 or 3 weeks off, I know what my character is. Well, if I can't train, I'll just eat what I like. Like I like most humans tend to sort of fall down that. Just give me the cookies. I'm like, you kind of humans tend to throw it up the wall at that particular point. I'm no different to anybody else. Hence, then the game is stay in the game. Like that, we all love training and we want to stay. Then it's now not go crazy and hurt ourselves in a short period of time. It's like, how can we now train for the rest of our lives in a sustainable, productive manner? And for most people, let's do less, but do it better. Do less and do it better. And so what was your first reaction to us pulling your training down? Like, this isn't going to work, probably.
I was a little questionable.
Of course. Yeah.
And then and not doing, 5 and 6 not doing like 6 chest exercises in it, in session and that sort of thing. It's like, well, I'm only doing 2 sessions, am I going to end up with little,
Yeah. So ultimately, you did less and got more for it, basically.
Yeah. Oh, huge changes in my physique.
Yeah. And how did that feel? Well, yeah, going from us cutting then down training and going to doing less and then having those results, did it feel like it just turned everything on its head from what you thought you knew from previous?
Absolutely. And then people started at the gym started noticing, hey, you're getting pretty lean there, buddy. And that always feels good, right? When you feel, because you go to the gym, you don't feel like anybody knows. Everybody's got their buds in and they're doing their thing, and just have people randomly walk up. Wow, you look great. You really lean down.
People notice, don't they? Like we think people don't notice, and it's not like some people are going to the gym for pure vanity, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's self-esteem in my eyes. But we tend to think that people aren't paying attention. But people are. Like if someone makes discernible progress forward, people in the gym, we notice. And it's not like we're looking out to try and pick fault in people, but people notice, right? Because we're all in there trying to make progress at the end of the day. There is absolutely nothing wrong with enjoying the sensation of someone coming up and passing on a compliment, because we all know that we don't give out compliments easy, really, do we, as humans? Like, we don't tend to walk around and just fling compliments out. Like normally if a human gives you a compliment, they generally pretty much mean it. And, then we sort of sit there and go, oh, thanks, I've been doing this or I've been doing that.
Alphas, I interrupt this show with a simple message. This show is here to benefit you and your progression to the best version of yourself. But not only just you, it's also here to benefit the people around you, your loved ones, your friends, other alphas in your vicinity. So why not do a really cool thing today? Something that I would thank you for and maybe someone else would. Share this podcast with at least one other alpha out there who would benefit from it. Why not share the information, share the ability for someone else to grow? I'm sure they would thank you. I 100% would absolutely thank you. This podcast only grows by our listeners, our followers doing amazing things like giving us 5-star reviews, downloading podcasts, subscribing, and then of course sharing it with other people. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Share it with one person, and of course drop us a 5-star review, download the podcast, and of course subscribe. And now back to the show.
So what do you think has made you want to sort of be part of what we do for 3 years? You've clearly seen value in it on the long term. Otherwise, you wouldn't still be it. But it'd be lovely for me to know from really from your perspective, having gone through those cycles and certainly achieved massive improvements in your physique. What has been the reason you're still here, I guess, and also adding to that, what element now do you find the most useful of being inside the program?
I like the accountability.
Yep.
And I'm still getting good information.
Yeah. 3 years in.
3 years in. Yeah. Because my needs now are very different than when they were when I first started.
Yeah. And what do you, okay, so at the start, I guess it was putting in plans that were just to get the ship moving in the right direction, right? To get that fund. So how do you feel that your needs have shifted now in terms of what it is to keep you moving forward? Is it, I mean, obviously accountability is huge because sadly, one of the things that we know, and when accountability is taken away, normally what happens is things carry on and then they slowly just start. And before someone realizes it, they're so far off of where they actually thought they were. And a good example is, oh no, I don't track my food anymore. Okay, because I've been doing it so long, I know what I'm doing. Okay. And what we know is at that point, people will have moved a long way away from where they think they are, because humans are particularly good at underestimating caloric intake and overestimating expenditure. Like that's an evolutionary thing. That would keep us alive, wouldn't it? So we know that people tend to sort of like veer off and don't realize how far off of where they're supposed to be. So I guess the accountability, and when you say information now is you're still getting different information. I mean, what would that be around training, around nutrition, around rest, recovery, sleep, all of those? Like what particular things might stand out now for you at this point?
Most of it's around nutrition.
Still, yeah. Still key thing.
Yeah. We're it's hard. I never thought in my life I'd ever say this. I'm having trouble gaining weight.
Oh, really? Oh, are you? Oh, there we go. So, and I bet you're on more calories now than you were when you came to us, probably, right? I bet you actually now you probably now eating more calories.
Pretty much the same.
Okay. Yeah. So in other words, you become metabolically more adapted to that amount of food, right? So in other words, where are you phase wise now? Where I'm not sure which direction you're going in currently.
Oh, I'm doing a slow bulk.
Okay, so you've been nice and lean, and now you're sort of slowly moving off in the other direction without trying to gain too much. Well, it is winter, isn't it? Everyone tends to do this during winter, to be totally honest. Yeah. So you're moving off, and I think I know the answer to this, but how would you say that your goalposts in what you thought you could achieve have changed through these 3 years?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. This is something we hear a lot, which is, I mean, first is, how long will it take until I achieve my goal? And we're always like, we don't know, we can't answer that. And then people are like, well, do people tend to stay on after the initial 6 months? And we're like, yeah, most people tend to stay on. And what happens is they tend to move the goalposts. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, because for the most part, we know that we're going to help someone achieve their goal and quicker than they thought. And what happens is they then realize, more's probably possible for me. I can probably go and achieve more. And what people do is understandably start to move those goalposts further out. And the reality is then that process never stops, does it? Like we always think, I could, next time you go on a slow bulk now, you put on some muscle, you then, do a cut, you're like, could still probably do some more on my arms. Okay. And off we go again, and around the circle we go again. And awesome, man. What impact has this had in your personal life? It's always a self-fulfilling goal to go off and achieve a physique and a health that we want. But how has this had maybe a positive impact into, external environment, relationships or work and so on and so forth? Have you sort of noticed positive impact sort of coming out in those directions?
Absolutely. I'm a lot calmer now. I'm a lot more confident. I don't let things get to me the way I used to. It takes a lot to really, kind of just get me going. As far as getting upset about something. I met up with a friend this weekend, and I hadn't seen him in a really long time. And he said, you finally become the man I always knew you would be.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. How did that feel? Yeah. Good.
I felt that was pretty incredible.
Oh, and this is that's not just even you look like you've been working out. Well done. That's you've become the man I knew that you were. Like that's a way more transformative level of things. And the interesting thing here is I've said to people, it's not going off and achieving the physique, it's the person you have to become to go off and achieve the physique. So it's like if someone said, I want to get a set of abs, like, okay, cool, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But it's not, once you've ever had a real set of abs and you look down and you're like, yeah, I'll have a full set of abs, like that's it, done. That part of the goal is done. But the lessons that we learn to have to become the person who would be able to walk around a 10% body fat day to day, like that thing is then, those lessons then kind of normally transform into the rest of their life. Like when I competed, I learned how much I was able to suffer and say no to things and be disciplined. And I was like, well, if I can do that in this thing, how about if I apply that to everything else? Suddenly my business expanded quicker, my relationships became better. I was able to achieve far more in terms of personal life from the goal of wanting to, get abs and be in the leanest shape possible. So you're getting that. And I mean, in terms of working life and daily energy and, all those sorts of areas, would you say you've seen improvement in all of those as well?
Absolutely.
Oh, well, man.
I've so got cool. More energy during the day, and when I sleep, I'm out.
Really? So sleep's a lot better as well. Yeah.
Oh God, much better.
It's funny, isn't it? Just from these one thing. So, we know if we get sleep in place, and most adults' sleep is really not very good. Most adults have really poor sleep and just think, well, that's my life, that's the way it is. And if you found out, it can certainly be improved. You get sleep in place, and then suddenly stress comes down, things bother you less. Suddenly losing body fat becomes easier. Everything, all these things tend to be orbiting around each other. And although, as you said also, nutrition is always going to be probably the biggest area, which it absolutely is. It's always going to be the area it's easiest to mess up on, and it's kind of the hardest to get right, even though it's really very straightforward, but not easy. Even though that's still the big area, with that on its own, everything else still needs to be running in the same direction to be able to go off and achieve all the results.
Well, I still kind of play around with my diet just to see how, if I do a little bit less fat and a little more carbs, how does that affect my energy and my workouts and stuff like that?
See, now you're at the place. So, I mean, for a lot of people, just actually tracking macros and understanding what a macro is a big deal. And that's fine. Like, we're not taught that stuff generally. We have to learn it when we have to learn it. And then it gets to a point where you'll know when you're at your leanest, because you'll make slight changes in food and you'll notice the difference. Like you can start to see things happen. When I know, for instance, if someone's particularly lean and we give them certain types of meals at certain times in the day, they can become very vascular, or they'll sleep quicker, or it'll wake them. That you can really play around with macros and what they do to a body, that when we're maybe 15 something plus % body fat, one, we don't see it because we can't see what's really going on. And we're kind of running at a suboptimal level anyway. But as soon as we, you get to sort of the places you got out, which is, really lean, you up carbs by certain % and down fats to make, and suddenly you're like, well, okay, I feel a little bit more sluggish like that. Okay, turn it back the other way. Ooh. And then it's like, for some people, we put all the carbs in the back end of the day. Why? Because during the day, they need to be mentally lit up and focused. And if they eat carbohydrates for breakfast, they kind of go groggy and sluggish. And these things can be, when you get to the point that you're at, which is actually like, now it's an experiment with like, well, I know what needs to be done to get back to here if I need to. Now I can sort of start to play around with, what would an extra day of training feel like now? Now my recovery's better, sleep's better, stress is low. But what would happen if I put in an extra day? And if I put an extra day of training in, what would that be? Like, what? And it's a cool point. And I always tend to think that, like you probably were before you got to us, people are going, like, not going around in circles, but hoping that they stumble essentially across the answer. In the myriad of information that's in front of us, online, the answer's all out there somewhere, isn't it? Like it's somewhere out there online, but it's got no context and quite often insanely hard to find. Well, I mean, let's say we put into Google, is keto the best fat loss diet? We get a billion answers that say yes, and they're very compelling, and a billion that say no, and they're very compelling, and we're now worse off than before we asked the question, which again is, I think, one of the things we always say inside the company is one of our roles here is to just simplify everything as much as we possibly can, because the simpler we can keep something, the more chance people have got of doing it, right? We don't need to make it complicated. Man, I'm so happy for you. 3 years in, and so what's the trajectory forward? So you're in a sort of slow, controlled massing phase right now. Is there a time scale put in place for that? What's the outlook now?
I want to do that through 2024, and then 2025 I want to go on stage.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that. I was waiting. I could do it. I didn't technically know the answer, but when someone says that, as soon as someone gives me that amount of time scale, I knew that you were about to say photo shoot or stage or something like that. Ooh, well, sir.
See how that goes.
Okay, yeah. So basically, slow bulking all the way forward now for about the next year. Get on as much, and then sort of cut and diet into some sort of appearance, something on stage, dude. Why not? Because I mean, you've got fundamentals in place. Regardless of whatever happens when someone stands on stage, like we walk on stage to win a show, but that's out of our hands, generally speaking. I would say it's always, it's always out of my hands whether I won a show or not. But I'd always walk away thinking, I couldn't have done anything more. I did everything. So now, regardless of where I ended up placing in the eyes of 6 random other people I don't know, i.e. the judges, regardless of what they think, I've achieved what I set out to, which was be the best version of me I possibly could on this date, which is, oh man, I can't wait for you to come back and tell me how that feels, because I already know what that sensation's like, and when the amount of clients that we've helped do it. And again, regardless of placing, positioning or stuff like that, it's both one of the most challenging things you might ever do, but it will also be one of the most self-rewarding and things where you get to learn so much about yourself in terms of how committed you can truly be. Dude, have you been looking at shows? Have you been sort of researching any yet?
A buddy of mine competed. God, when was that? I think last year. I think that's the show I want to do. It's called the Dennis James.
The Dennis James. Yeah, that's fairly local to you then.
Yeah, it is.
Dude, I can't wait for that. And that'll be 2025 then. So you've basically got a nice long run up. You've got like a nice long year to go and. Is there any particular body parts that you're now focused on then that you've got to really focus on to bring up for that?
Definitely my arms.
Okay, yeah, that'd be me too. Yeah, so arms a big priority.
Arms and chest right now. I might switch that up to shoulders. Build up my shoulders a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean you've got enough time really over if you're a year upwards now and in the surplus, you could nearly go right. I'm going to spend. You could nearly break the year up into 4 quarters and go, right, this quarter you focus on the thing that's the worst. So if that's arms and chest, right, first quarter that, then you give them a bit of a rest in terms of volume and go, right, what's the next worst thing? Next quarter, and then maybe go back to the next, and then you could kind of at least cycle things around, because you can't just hammer your arms and chest for the next 12 months. They're going to need a little bit of a step back, while you then maybe maybe those two things grow particularly well. You're like, oh, back and shoulders need a bit of work now, and then you go like 3 months like focusing heavily on progressing those. Then you take a step back and you're like, okay, cool, like this is working well, still need more arms, and arms come back in as the sort of driving volume area. Yeah, that's how I would tend to do it. I tend to sort of break things up mentally in blocks. Also, it's easier to do that on a, if all you thought about for the next year was arms and chest, like it's a bit monotonous. It's like, and your elbows are going to take a battering. Like you got to have to like take a step back, so you can kind of at least cycle round things. I just sit here and look forward to seeing you standing on stage and doing your thing, man. That's going to be so cool. Dude, listen, it's been and still continues to be an absolute pleasure to know you and have you here, inside the program, and to see your continued progress. I wish you, first of all, hopefully it won't be as long to talk next time, and since we've spoken again last time, so that's something for sure. And secondly, obviously, I'm going to be keeping a very close eye on your progress over the next year, and we'll obviously see you stand on stage. And what have you got? Have you got much?
Thing I've noticed I want to ask you about. So I've gotten to the point when I wake up, I can tell if my weight's gone up or down.
Okay.
Do you do that? Can you do that too?
So I knew when I stood on the scales this morning I was going to be 202, and I was 202.2. So I can tell, basically. So I can tell. I look at my weight before I go to sleep, and then I look at it when I wake up. Not every single day, but I got used to checking it the night before in the morning when I used to compete. So I actually had a piece of paper where I would, last thing at night, I would then write down what I weighed and then what I weighed in the morning, because I wanted to really get a handle on how much I'd drop overnight, because theoretically we will always drop weight overnight. Like we won't ever actually go up in weight overnight. We might weigh more one morning to the morning before, but we will never go up in weight overnight unless we're consuming water or something through the night. We will always go down in weight. We perspire just a little bit through the night. We burn fat through the night. We probably get up and go loo through the night. Like we will always come down in weight. So yesterday I went to sleep at 2:05, woke up at 2:02, which is about normal. Quite often I'll go to bed, like that's a bit heavy for me. It's been I've been a bit dehydrated for a few days, so my body hydration has changed. But for example, I'll go to bed at say 2:02, wake up at 198. Like that's been fairly regular. So you get used to, for me and my body weight, about 3.5-4 pound drop. About 3.5 pound drop is about normal. And that's with me not being very, very strict. I'm not dieting for anything. I walk around. I could do with being a little bit strict, yes. But I haven't got any major physique goal in front of me right now, and I can hang out at around 12-13% body fat and kind of get away with it a little bit. But if I was really, let's say I was going to go off and do a show or a photo shoot or something like that, then I would continue doing what I'm doing now, but I would actually start to track it, because it becomes useful to know that when you get really lean. And also what happens is you'll get, if you know that you dropped on average 3 pounds overnight, and then one night you wake up and you're 5 pounds down, you're like, and normally speaking, that could be that you've had like a fat loss whoosh overnight, which is, we lose fat in whooshes and stalls. Like nothing will happen, but as fat cells fill up with water, and then as fat cells let go of water, we get like so when we're losing fat, it's not a straight line, right? It's kind of going da, 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 like this. Yeah, as you know, like it's always bouncing all over the place. But even within that bouncing all over the place, there's a fair bit of consistency. So, this is a good sign when you can you can feel the signals that your body's telling you, which is what you're suggesting there, which is you wake up and you're like, I'm going to be more than I was yesterday, or I've put weight on over the day. And that could be, it's normally, if you live in a hot place like I do, like if let's say so for example, not yesterday. No, yesterday I sat in a tattooist chair for like 7 hours. So of course I wasn't drinking. I didn't get in my, sort of 5-6 liters of water. I probably fell short and got to about 4. So that's, although I'm still very hydrated from my, if I then today I then went outside and I was like, I don't know, on the beach or in the sun all day, my body's hydration level is going to go, it's going to be like all over the place for a day or two until it settles back down. That's one change. Another change could be disruption in bowel movement. So, there's just more gut contents inside. Like, all it takes is a couple of those things at once, and we can see you can get some swings. And then when you watch that happening, you'll be like, that's interesting, because I ate something that I didn't normally eat yesterday. I wonder if that's caused me to slow my digestion down. Like if I ate too much bread, because I just don't digest bread well, or, I don't know, too much of something, when you get really lean and you're getting to that point where, you're really getting close to maybe wanting to peak and get ready on stage, in understanding this stuff becomes key. Because you're going to, when you get to that last little bit, and the idea is, okay, I now need to be the best version of me I've ever been on this day at this time. This stuff makes a massive difference. So it's immediately good that you're getting a sensation of, I can tell I'm going to wake up heavier today. But then the other thing I would say is, then don't get overly focused on it.
But I just something I noticed, like I'll be getting on the scale. It's like, yeah, it's going to be down today, and it's down.
Yeah.
It's just, I think of it more as just being in tune with my body.
100%. 100%. Like funny enough, I know I was 205 yesterday. I was like, oh goodness, that's like 3 pounds over where I've been going to bed. Like it's only 3 pounds. It's no big deal. But I'm like, oh, okay. So when I brushed my teeth, turned around, and I was like 202, and I was like 202.1 or 202 point something low. Yeah. And I was like, and I just got off and I was like, yeah, I knew that would be the case. And you can kind of tell. It's like sometimes I'll get up in the morning and I might be like 199, and I know I'm doing boxing in the morning, so I'll go downstairs and I'll do pad work, and I'm obviously sweating heavily, and I know that I'll come back up and I'll have lost another 2 pounds, literally. So I'll wake up at 199, I'll come back up here, have a shower, get back on the scales, and I'll be 197. But then of course that's artificially pushed down, isn't it? When you think about it, because like that's not my then what will happen is it will swing quite all the way back up to 202. So I'll put on 5 pounds over the day to get back up to 202 or even up to 203, and then it will come back down, and so like you can watch these things have a different impact. So yeah, well done you for noticing that stuff. Good stuff. Well, my man, listen, I need to jump off. Like I say, it's been and it continues to be an absolute pleasure to have you here, and thanks for taking some time out of your day to come and talk to me. It's been an absolute pleasure. It continues to be so. I'm watching. I'll be watching, sir. Keep doing what you're doing. Obviously, working with the guys as you are, like, you're doing an absolute fantastic job. We massively appreciate you, sir. And we'll I'll be doing these on a more regular basis, so we'll get to jump on here. Maybe as you start the sort of another phase in terms of where you are, and you've learned some different things, and you've got some different thoughts, and we can have another conversation and see how things have progressed from you. That'd be awesome.
That'd be great. And I want to say Ash is a great coach. I really enjoy working with him. So
yeah. He's a clever sausage, isn't he? He's I know the interesting thing with Ash is, and he knows that we say this, which is he looks young, right? So he's got, which I'm very envious of. But then, and we've had clients sort of kind of see him and think, is he going to be able to help me? Like, is he? And then they get to understand how mature and how knowledgeable and how much of a great coach he is. He's technically very, very good at what he does. The results, not just the results that he gets, but the feedback he gets, just as you said, is phenomenal from everybody that he works with. He's creating a really good culture in terms of the client base that he's working with. Yeah, we're extremely happy to have him here, and we look forward to him, helping you get on stage and being the best version of you, man. Absolute pleasure.
Absolutely, man. All right.
Listen, dude, absolute pleasure. Go and enjoy the rest of your day. Have a wonderful Christmas. Yeah, have a wonderful Christmas. Have a great time. And I'll obviously catch up with you next year at some point. All right.
All right. Sounds good. Take care.
Cheers, man. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.